What's going on, reality hackers? It's Michael, and I'm here today, and we're going to get deep down into it. But before we get into it, for anybody that is into chiropractic, this video is sponsored by Renegade Chiropractic out of Texas. You can use the link in our description if you're in the area to get half off your first appointment and get your life taken care of. I cannot speak more to the power of chiropractic work, as I was in a car accident about 12 years ago and rear-ended at 80 miles an hour. So chiropractic has definitely helped radicalize my healing. Check it out. Do your thing. Today, we're going to be talking about something really, really amazing. I'm super excited. Ultimately, we're going to be talking about what most people miss, right? A lot of people miss this, and a lot of people use the terms law of attraction, law of assumption interchangeably, but today we're going to be talking about the key differences that are existing between the law of attraction and the law of assumption. And ultimately, what I believe you're going to get out of this video is not only a deeper understanding of what those two terms are and what they mean, but ultimately a deeper understanding of you, because as you know yourself, you will know the universe and the gods. So says the ancient Egyptian proverb. So today we've got our handy dandy whiteboard, right? And what we're talking about today is what most people miss when it comes to differentiating the law of attraction from the law of assumption. And ultimately what I want to talk about as my first point here is the law of attraction is most of the time rooted in separation, right? The law of attraction ultimately states that you attract. And when we really get down to the edge of our humanness, of our individuality, we recognize that we are source, God, consciousness, whatever, experiencing itself through the lens of a human, right? We are not humans experiencing God, we're God experiencing humans, right? And that's such a radical worldview, because when I no longer look at myself as some tiny, insignificant, inanimate, powerless actor in this seeming massive play that's going on around me, but rather I look at myself as the creator, the director, the writer, the actor, the scene maker, the producer, the recorder, right? The editor, the video editor, the whole nine yards. When I look at myself as playing every single role in the production of a play, because I understand that I am the consciousness from which all things come into being from, all of a sudden, my approach to things naturally looks a little different, right? When I feel insignificant, when I feel that the human identity is my objective identity, there's a natural feeling of limitation that comes into that. But when I switch that around and ultimately look at God or consciousness inhabiting this human body and giving it life, I begin to understand that this body, this identity known as Michael, really has no life of its own, but ultimately is made up of the same substance that everything else in the universe is made up of. And this is a radical truth that really never really ceases to lose its amazement, but it's so powerful because all of a sudden I go from living this tiny, reactive, power struggling life to understanding that I'm infinitely powerful. Now, obviously, this is not an intellectual shift. This is a shift that must occur inside of your heart. And if you're looking for a way to do that, check out the I Am Experience in the bio, right? This is really going from head knowledge to heart knowledge. This alone radically alters your perception on what manifesting is, because a lot of us look at manifesting as something that we are doing and affecting the outside world. But in reality, as above, so below, as within, so without, all things consist of the same cause substance, which is consciousness, right? So ultimately, when I hold to a worldview that's rooted in separation or lack, it strips me of power. It strips me of power because all of a sudden now, what I'm trying to do, right, and to our second point here, is attract something from outside of myself, right? Because I've identified myself as this, and I'm trying to attract something. This is some computer screen cleaner, right? I'm trying to attract something from the outside, but ultimately, when I'm trying to attract something from the outside, I inadvertently create a bunch of external forces that I'm competing with. Because the moment I believe that I'm attracting something from the outside of myself, immediately a ton of other variables come into play. How, who, what, where, when, why. And all of a sudden, there's a bunch of complications and unknowns and X and Y factors that exist in regards to me attracting this thing that I want. What qualifies me to do it? How do I do it? What's the quickest way to do it, right? When I'm looking to attract something from the outside, it literally, the fundamental self-concept there is powerlessness. But when I shift all of that and I no longer look at me attracting something from the outside, but rather me revealing to myself something that already exists because creation is finished, and I'm simply entering a different state of consciousness, which reveals different contents of consciousness to me, all of a sudden, this internal struggle for power, it slowly begins to disapparate, right? It slowly begins to disappear because I'm no longer walking around living with this identity of a small individual. I'm walking around knowing that I and the Father are one, but the Father is greater than I. And ultimately, the Father is my true identity. This is really where things get frisky when it comes to manifesting. And I cannot tell you, right? We've been working with hundreds of thousands of people over the last 7 years. I cannot tell you how many people I have seen significantly transform their lives when they come to this truth, when they come to this understanding, not in their mind, but in the heart. And that's really your quest here, is to understand that, as Neville says, you are all imagination, right? You are the totality of the universe experiencing itself through the lens of a human consciousness. Consciousness is the only reality, right? All of a sudden, I'm taking this and I'm understanding the law of assumption differs from the law of attraction, and that the law of assumption puts me at the center of my universe. It makes me the causal factor, right? It's not about, well, there might be some variables in attracting this thing, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. It's really about, I am the totality of the universe experiencing itself subjectively for a short while. And because I am the totality of the universe, everything that I want, all my desires, are made up of the same cause substance that I am, which is consciousness, which means I'm already one with the thing that I want. So this whole idea of attracting it from the outside ultimately just keeps us perpetuating cycles of lack, discomfort, separation, suffering, the whole 9 yards. So we want to transform, right? We want to transform from this place of attracting from the outside to actually attracting what already exists, or really not even attracting at this point. I would say more generating, and maybe even not generating, but revealing, right? I'm just revealing what already is because my desires are already done. They already exist. And by entering a new state of consciousness, I reveal new contents of consciousness to myself. That's why we really change this from like attracting things and going around good vibes only, blah, 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 to understanding yourself, right? That's the proverb. Know yourself and you will know the universe and the gods. Because when you know how you function, when you know not only how you function, but you know what you are, you know who you are, you will begin to see the true nature of objectivity appear in all of reality. I cannot speak enough to knowing yourself. Self-awareness is probably one of the greatest things you can cultivate as a manifester, right? And it's not even about self-awareness. It's about self-awareness. It's the awareness that I am the self, the one and only self that exists, experiencing itself through the lens, through the glasses of a human for a very, 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 very short time. And ultimately, where the law of assumption really kind of takes the law of attraction out here is it really posits that consciousness is not only the only reality, it's the only cause, right? Consciousness is not only the only reality, it is the only cause of what happens in reality. And I'm firmly convinced that this is the case. Consciousness, self-concepts lead to generation, right? Really, what I should say, they do lead to generation to a degree, but they ultimately lead to the revelation of themselves. Self-concepts turn into beliefs, that turn into thoughts, that turn into feelings, that turn into action, that turn into outcomes, right? And what is a self-concept? It is a conditioned portion of consciousness, right? Whatever self-concept I take, I'm conditioning in the infinite consciousness that I am to be in form. So not only is consciousness the only reality, the only true reality, right? Reality does not exist objective to myself or to yourself. Consciousness is the only reality. And because consciousness is the only reality, what I am conscious of being is what I experience. And this will never change. This will never change. You will never be fully conscious of being sick and be healthy, right? You'll never be fully conscious of being poor and be rich, even if you have a ton of money. Because the consciousness that you carry determines how you see everything that is. And this is why you don't need $1 million to be rich. You just need to know who you are. It really doesn't matter how much money you do or don't have. And that's the whole amazing thing here. Once you stop giving a crap about all of the details and you focus on the feeling and you understand the fundamentals of reality, right? That consciousness is the only reality, that I don't attract, I reveal. All of a sudden, dude, the whole game begins to change. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what we have to understand is that there's nothing to attract because assumption exists, right? Assumption exists prior to the world. Not only does it exist prior to the world, it manifests the entire world. Why? Because self-concepts create reality. Because a belief conditions the consciousness from which this entire universe comes into being from. And as that belief conditions that consciousness, what is revealed is the contents of the state of consciousness that is entered, right? Amazing, amazing stuff here. Look, the fundamentals, you're not attracting. You are everything. You only need to reveal by entering into new states, and you can do that instantaneously. And I'll tell you this, the harder you attach to your human identity, the harder you need to validate that, the harder and longer and more you need the human identity to be validated and real, the harder this gets. Because awakening is not about, it's not about, in my opinion, right? Anything other than becoming aware of our true self and looking to live through the lens of that true self as much as we possibly can. Because at the end of the day, when we live through the lens of that true self, we carry the values that make this world an amazing place. Love, kindness, humility, integrity, character, right? Things that create a powerful, loving, thriving society. And that's what we want to do here. You are amazing, you're powerful, you're wonderful, you're awesome, you're all that is and more. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, go ahead and comment, share your feedback. I want to hear what you have to say about this. I'm all for it, man. Let's discuss, let's grow together. Man, there's so much goodness for you in the description here. If you go ahead, not only was today's video sponsored by Renegade Chiropractic, we've got a free ebook for you. It's about at least 45 pages. Really good stuff for you. So check the description. Some hypnosises we've got available for you on the channel. Lots of amazing things here. Lots of resources to support you. I'm really excited. And ultimately, I'm on your bench, right? So if you need anything else, go ahead and reach out to us. Go ahead and hang out with us. You're amazing. You're powerful. You're wonderful. You're talented. You're awesome. And I'll talk to you soon.